So, welcome to We Are Napier, the podcast that shares alumni stories, puts resilient skills in context, and helps to prepare you for a changing world. My name's Dave Jarrold, and I'm joined today by Ken Brown. Ken, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well this afternoon, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So, we are focusing on alumni who've been alumni award winners, and that's a kind of theme for the podcast for this series. So, I forgot to ask you in advance, so I'm doing this cold. Can you remind me when was it you won your? Because I know we're going back a little bit. When did you win your alumni award?
About a decade ago, I was the first one to get the award.
Oh, fantastic!
By Jane, yeah, it was tremendous.
It's the inaugural alumni award. I was underselling it.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you've had your career, man and boy, at Balfour Beatty. So and maybe get you to kick us off by telling us a bit about your career first of all, and the work that you were engaged in, and how that career trajectory was like for you.
Yeah, I wanted to go into civil engineering, and the HND, which was like a sandwich course at Napier, suited me because it was like 6 months in, 6 months in industry, but you had to find that yourself. The first summer was with putting a lighthouse on an island in Orkney, followed by a sewage treatment works at Linlithgow. The second summer, I managed to get with Balfour Beatty, but that was down at Sellafield, which massive civil engineering. But when you work as a student with a company, it gives you the opportunity to potentially get the foot in the door. But not always. So that was the start. So I did well down in Sellafield, and then when I finished my third year, I started at the Musselburgh Bypass back in 1985, and I was on the structures there, and that was the two bridges at the roundabout at Old Craig Hall, and I ended up finishing all the rest of the bridges off because I was the only one that could get the concrete straight and everything else. So all the copes and everything that you see there. That was by my hand. So 38 years from being a site engineer all the way up to a senior project manager. I didn't want contracts manager. I was happy with that role. Always careful what you wish for. And these jobs were motorways, the M74, 77, down in Newcastle for 5 years. That was bridges and roads there. That was sewage treatment plants, a primary and a secondary. Then I went up to Inverness, did a freshwater one there. Yeah, remember when the director said, "Would you want a job back in Scotland?" I said, "Yeah." So that was back up to Inverness. So that was good there. And I went back up to Inverness a few years later and sorted out the Keswick Bridge. That was really technically different, jacking and doing the stays, as well as the resurfacing. I was crossing Stornoway, doing the new pier there in 1996. When I was at Napier, I joined the diving club, and within a few years, I was running it, even though I was working, because you needed more senior people with experience to do that. And when I was up in Stornoway, I took my diving gear up there, and I had a great time.
Fantastic.
So sometimes when you're working, it can give you the opportunity to use your hobbies.
And that's a great illustration as well of, and Napier's always prided itself on its connections to industry, into the world of work, and the practical application we've got. But to the placement opportunities, whether it's just, direct experience of a particular profession or just the connections and the opportunities that opens up. And there's so many people I've spoken to who their career has opened up because of an experience on placement through Napier.
Yeah, and then I think it was the early 2000. I had the privilege of refurbishing the Forth Rail Bridge for 5 years.
Wow!
And I had been in contact just before that with a chap, Dr. Ian Smith, who was in charge of the civils department in soils. And basically, we took students out, and then when I was at the rail bridge, we ended up. He had 7 universities from Europe descended upon Napier.
Wow.
Close to something like 250 students, of which I took 198 over the rail bridge over 2 days. And this is where sort of planning and timing all comes together. And So I took it, divided them down into groups and split them up so they were walking. And then Ian then had to rearrange his whole week around these groups because it actually then worked for him. And this is sometimes that although you're doing engineering, it can be logistical problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
How to get around a problem that seems impossible. You break it down. Look what options you've got and take it from there. And what developed from that was more site visits on different sites. Myself coming in and doing the odd lecture at Napier on whether it was planning, health and safety, or whatever there. And then it went on to mentoring the fifth year students on their final year project. And then a few years later, the civil engineering department decided to make me a visiting fellow. So that was very nice. So for the work that's done there. But when you're using your engineering experience, that's only a part of it. You've got to have your timekeeping. So sometimes I work backwards from when I'm supposed to have something ready to what the date is now. And then we talk about float. And that's because something is going to go wrong. No matter how well you plan it, something will go wrong. You need to sort it. So you need to have it ready before you're supposed to have it ready. So if you have any problems, it's there. I mean, it's like turning up for the bus 2 minutes early before it turns up. That's you know. And working with people. Different people have different abilities. Although you might all be in the same class, you will not always go and do the same job after leaving university. You know, some will go into design, some will do research, some will do contracting. And it's always good if you're in a team to have a mix of people. Because if you're all the same, you will fall out. You'll all want to do the same job, and you all won't want to do the job that you don't want to do.
Yeah, this is absolutely. And diversity perspectives brings strength. It brings quality. It brings innovation because you have new ways of looking at things that if you've all got the same approach and perspective, you're not going to find that.
I discovered this on a training course that Balfour Beatty sent me on. And there was 12 of us split into like 3 or 4 groups. And, we're all the same apart from a couple. And one was a geophysicist type chap who was in the soils more, and there was one guy who was doing piling, and another one was a planner. So we had quite a mix of a group, and you could hear the others falling out. So needless to say, the group I was involved with won. So,
and you're right.
That was a life lesson. That really was.
Because sometimes, so we do a lot of work on team working, and you've mentioned problem solving, these kind of things. So I'll give a quick plug for the Resilient Skills program that we've got at Napier, which is there for students to develop this blend of soft skills and supportive skills. But you're right. I think if you go into a team and you all think you look like you're pretty similar, then you're going to make an assumption that you're all going to think the same. And then when somebody doesn't, it knocks things off. But if you go into a team and you can see, okay, so we're quite a diverse team, then you're going to go into it thinking, okay, how will we make this work? And so you're already thinking about how to plug in differences rather than getting wrong-footed by them.
Yeah. So what is the problem? What's the experience around the table? What's the rules? What's the specification on this? Because there's no point in heading off when you think you know it before. It's like putting the IKEA cupboard together and finding it over, and then you have to go back. Read the specification beforehand, because it's very similar from job to job. Highway specification, structures, whatever, and then there'll be quirks for each contract. But you've got to know those inside out. I used to print off all the drawings, and I would spend a day and I would look at every drawing. And being dyslexic, I could actually memorize the drawings. And I could go out and say, that detail's not right, it needs to be this, you see. And had young engineers going, you sure? But nowadays, you've now got the opportunity to give them iPads so they can actually have the drawings electronically with them. So there's less of an excuse for not being familiar. Because I would always carry a copy of the drawings or sketches and everything in with me. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And it's the devil's in the detail, and it's amazing if you get it right first time, how much cheaper that is than doing it twice.
Yeah, no, my brother's the same. He's dyslexic, and he's incredibly skilled at looking at something and figuring it out. You give him a detailed specification to read, no chance. But he will watch someone doing something and it can replicate it 100% because it's the analytical way of looking at things.
And when computers came along and you could do spell check, that helped me tremendously. I could just write as I normally wrote what typing, and then just put it through spell check. Right, okay, that's a pile of mints. Okay, now we're now sorted. Okay, send it. Okay, and that was really the transition from writing letters where you had secretaries to keep you right to actually you do it yourself.
Yeah. And then the support coming in to ensure we did keep it right with all the additional technology. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it says to students, there's no wrong way of doing it, or no wrong path, should I say, and there's nothing stopping you if you've got. And I think one of the things, if you've got grit and determination, I think that you'll get there.
Yeah, you'll find a way. There's more and more assistive technologies coming in now with AI and the rise of other support tools.
Use them to your aid. You don't want to be replaced by them, so use them to your aid. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's delve a bit more into that. So in terms of this, obviously you've worked on some iconic projects, so technical skills are a given. But in terms of those additional skills, you've talked about problem solving, you've talked about team working. What would you say have been the main soft skills or additional skills that have supported you in your career?
Getting to know people, know your team, morale. If you can maintain a medium to high morale, no matter what the weather conditions are and things like that, the team will take it on. And it's speak to people like you want to be spoken to. If somebody's done something wrong, take them in and tell them. Don't sugarcake it, and explain to them the ramifications of what those errors, what the costs are, and from there, so that they learn. And I always say the cheapest form of mistake is learning from somebody else's.
Very true. Yeah.
Because I've done a couple of clients on my time, but you learn from them. And then you can teach others, on that basis. And you don't write people off just because they make one mistake. If they keep on doing it, that's a different story. But you want somebody who is conscious or conscientious. That's the word I'm looking for. Conscious is good as well. But these are the skills that, as you develop into more manager roles, technically you can do the problem probably standing on your head. But you can't be the one person to build a motorway. You need a team of people. So you need to lead that team of people. You need to be clear on direction, clear on timescales, clear on the message that you're giving out. And that might be that in your staff, you give them a list of roles and responsibilities. To say you're responsible for that, and that there's no gaps between people or overlaps, because sometimes when it overlaps, you get friction.
That clear understanding of where your role finishes and where somebody else comes in.
Yeah, and then you do and then this grey area in between, there's the overlap. Because you need to step in to do that, but make it clear on that. You need to have clear deadlines when things and reports are required. So you can have a monthly calendar, and that monthly calendar can repeat and repeat, and everybody knows when things need to be, where they need to be. If you're going to jump on the train from Edinburgh to London, you need to be on a platform in London.
Yeah.
In a simple form, so that if you're needing to book concrete, right? What days do we need it? And you're booking that in advance, but you give yourself a little bit of float. All these little bits and pieces come together to make up the contract, but you're going to have challenges. And challenges are the things that the team can thrive on when they resolve things. And then it's using praise in the right form, not condescending, whatever, praise in the right form when little milestones are achieved. And then you get the bigger milestone. And then the whole team wants to be part of that team. If you took football or hockey, whatever, you love being on the winning side team, don't you?
It's a really good point, and I would expect nothing less from a project manager, which is, if we're just focusing on the goal that's 2 years or your long-term goal, it's really hard to keep up that momentum. But when you've got the interim goals, you've got your milestones, you've got the things that mark the fact that you're facing in the right direction, you're going in the right way, and you can celebrate those wins along the way. That's what keeps morale up. That's what keeps people engaged.
And then if something doesn't work, get people around the table and say, right, let's go through it. Let's see what we didn't get right. So next time, everybody then learns from it.
Yeah, it's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. You win or you learn.
Correct. But I think people have to be passionate about wanting to come to work. Take pride in what they're achieving and what they're building. And especially when the whole project's finished, you want to get some fantastic photographs of like before, during, after sort of thing, and feed that back to them and say, look, this is what you've achieved. Okay, but you did that as a group. And I used to keep lots of these because I really enjoyed it. And when I put things together for presentations, I've got photographs like this. But you can use these photographs to teach later on, to show how you solved a problem. There's so many uses for these sort of things, because a photo's 1,000 words.
Yeah, definitely.
You could be talking away to somebody for 20 minutes or something, and there's an image in their head, and it's completely different to what you're trying to do.
Yeah. But that gets everybody on the common ground. You're looking at the same thing.
And well, one of the things I read an article, and then I used it so many times at certain meetings, and I used to say, well, this sounds a bit like the beach ball. And then, of course, the whole meeting goes quiet because this sounds like I'm going left field somewhere. And I says, right, there's a beach ball sitting in the middle of the table. And I turn to the person opposite me and says, right, describe what you see. And they're sort of looking around and what about it? It's a ball. I says, is it a hard ball or soft ball? It's a soft ball. It's an inflatable ball. I says, right, I'm blind. Tell me what you see in the way of colours and things. Oh, it's made up of segments in different colours. I says, right, what colour do you see? And they go, I don't know, blue. I says, that's interesting. I see red. So we're talking about the same ball. We're looking at the same ball, but we're seeing different colours. And then I'll leave a little pause. I said, now, let's go back to the problem we were discussing. And it's a way of saying, yeah, the problem's in front of us, but not everybody's actually looking at the same part of the problem that we need to solve.
Yeah, and they'll have different perspective when they do.
Correct. And then it's trying to bring people around to looking at, okay, it's the blue bit we need to fix. And sometimes by using these, I don't know what it's called, an anagram or whatever, you get people then, without having to get into big argument, debate, fight, whatever you want to call it. So you're actually focusing on the same problem.
Yeah. No, it's a really important aspect because you're then focused on the issue and the problem rather than the people, and you're taking that heat out of a situation.
Correct. If you descend into personalities one against the other, you will not get the problem resolved easily.
And I think that comes back to the first point you made about morale and people being engaged and supported. If you're focused on the same target and the same outcome, then that you're trying to achieve the same thing. You might have different perspectives, you might have different views on it, but if you're listening to that diversity of view, then that's going to get you to the outcome that you're all trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Listen, I would like to take a bit of a step back. It's up to you. You can share how far back it goes or not. That's entirely your call. But I'd like to go back to your Napier experience, your original Napier experience, and just tell us a little about what that was like. Because the university, if it was a university at that point, was a slightly different place.
Well, we'd have to go back to the last century.
Me too. It's fine.
which not everybody can say. So back in the 80s, Napier was a polytechnic, and student life. We had grants, which were very helpful, and there was quite a bit of practical, whether it was surveying, the lab. I used to love going down at the lab, working out characteristics of concrete. I remember in first year, and it's amazing how certain things of your life or college life stick with you. And one of the challenges was here's a tube of glue, a reel of thread, and some balsa. Make a structure. Okay, use the word structure between these two points to support a weight, and we will film it and we'll watch it to the point of failure. So this was part structures and a bit there. So I said, now there was only one girl in the group, Sarah, and she was pretty Sarah Aitchison, lovely girl. And I said, looking at the properties, I said, balsa wood, that'll be good in compression, but it'll just snap. I said, and the string is great in tension, but use in compression. I said, so we want something that's like a rope. And she looked at me and she says, no, we're to build a bridge. I said, no, it's a structure. Look, the word is structure. So anyway, it came down to the bit where everybody pulled out their structures or their bridges. And they had some lovely box girder things and all the rest of it. And needless to say, as soon as the load went on it, they were snapping left, right, and centre. Mm-hmm. So I'd convinced Sarah that we should do a bowstring arch. Now, these were done, and you'll see them on a railway line down in Plymouth by, I think it's Brunel, some sort of super chap like that, you see. Mm-hmm. And we had these bowstring arches, one at the top, one at the bottom, as it were, and with a rope through the middle and a rope diagonally underneath. Needless to say, we almost won. We were second. Mm-hmm. The chap who won was the wood lecturer, Mr. Bolton, who designed 2 wooden clamps and a rope. He almost broke the rig. Now, and these sort of things stick with you in your mind of problem solving. So the devil's in the detail. We did Scots law.
Wow. So comprehensive.
Yeah, and one of them sticks with me. A verbal contract witnessed, signed by somebody else, stands in the court of law. Certain things that stick with you. Also, other contract law about a contractor laying a gas main. Farmer came along to him and said, "I'll give you £100 if you give me a connection." So the foreman says, "Well, you give me £100 and I'll get the connection. Where's your bit of hose?" So you give him £100, put a pipe in with a valve on it. They backfilled the whole thing, and he says, "Right, wait till we're gone before you try it out." The farmer goes down, turns it on, gets gas for a week. Then the gas stops. Farmer digs up a hole, finds the foreman had put a gas cylinder down with a bit of hose coming off. So contracts. These sort of things that stick to you in your mind. Yeah. And I think, and this is the thing about going on. There's the technical things that you need for exams that you need to pass, but sometimes it's the anecdotes that go with them that help you remind. And I mean, that was 40 years ago. I can still remember these.
Yeah. No, you're right. The best tool for teaching anything is a story.
Yeah. One of the things I joined the diving club when I was there. Always wanted to scuba dive, and I have taught, I don't know, dozens of students how to dive in from there, and I did that for 20 years. And then when I was at the rail bridge, I then started sailing, and taking students out as well. Sailed across the North Sea. We've won races. We've done all sorts.
Oh wow! So in terms of the Napier side of it and the course side of it, I say you've come back and you've done lecturing work with the university. What's the main changes that you've seen over that period?
Well, Main change, I would say, certainly computer-wise. When I was there, it was the size of a room.
Wow.
that was the computer, okay? And the surveying technology has changed hugely. When I was there, it was a theodolite, and you're working out angles, and you're doing chords. As my career progressed, the theodolite then had an electronic element on it, which you could measure distance, and now it becomes a station, which is actually doing it by coordinates. So all of the number crunching that we had to do is now done actually automatically, and more from the design, so you can get all the information through. We used to call it MOS models. It's a bit different now, but you still need your basics. You still need to put a string line down and check things. When I speak with students, so for the last 15 years, apart from last year, I would take a group, and they had designed something in the fourth year. So it could be a football stadium or a music stadium, and would plank it somewhere in Edinburgh. So Ocean Terminal, for example, before they built the houses next to that, was a bit of waste ground. And I said, right, give us a presentation in 12 weeks on how you would build that, and let's do it as a pitch. Do you want to be a contractor, a consultant? How much is it going to cost to build? How long is it going to take? And the course had 20 students in it. Now there's less students in that final year now because of Brexit, so there's less of the Irish element. The lads are not getting a grant to do their sort of final year element, so there's less than that. So we've had to adapt a bit there, and it's then running through what it's like in the real world. And I've had some groups in the past who just launched into it, hook, sinker, the whole lot. And I said, the more you put in, the more I'll give you, and the more I'll support you. To one point where they designed something in 3D, and then I said, well, there's a chap that I work with. I'll bring him in, and he's got this visual reality element to it. So there's a software package which they can put the design into. You can then do a fly through. So the lads sat down and did a fly through through this music stadium that they put together. It's a bit like an O2, and music and things like that. And each year I would try and add a bit more. But this group absolutely blew me away, and I thought, in the future, you'll be seeing these guys will be, the leaders in civil engineering on boards, But if I get the opportunity to create that spark and get them going, that's great. And what I also did was that if I saw prospects for working in contracting, I'd say, why don't you apply? Go and apply to Balfour Beatty. And normally when they put the application in, I'd just send an email to one of the senior directors and said, start them.
Which comes back to what we were talking earlier on about connections and the network through Napier and the alumni network, and that's something we're always promoting as well. So I appreciate your time, Ken. I'm not going to abuse it too much, but I've got one final question I'm going to ask you. And this is the question we finished off with all of our alumni that we've been talking to on these podcast interviews. So if you were walking across that stage today, fresh-faced graduate, scroll in your hand, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to yourself?
Enjoy the journey. Because that's what it's about. It's not 5 minutes. It's a journey. It's a career that you're going to be part of teams that will make things that will still be around when you're not around. I've been fortunate. I've been involved with the Fourth Rail Bridge, replacing most of Waverley Station, the roof and the concourse. Sorting out, and there's stories and things I could probably tell for about 8 hours in my career of things that went well, things didn't go well, and how we sorted it. And some things might be in the Official Secrets Act. I don't know. But if no matter what career you're going into, enjoy the journey and support people, because if you pick something you enjoy, you're going to enjoy your day, and the bonus is you're going to get paid for it.
Yeah, I think there's no better advice than that. You're absolutely right. We're not done until we're done. And even then, I mean, you're retired now, but I'm assuming I can't see you just sitting, putting your feet up, doing nothing. So there's a next stage to it.
So I retired almost 2 years ago. One, because I could, and two, there was a list of things I wanted to go and do, even though I was doing a lot when I was working, and one of those was get an old car and go and do the Monte Carlo Historic Rally. So I did.
Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, I've taken up more than enough of your time, so I'm going to bring it to an end there, Ken. But I'm just going to say thank you very much for everything that you've shared in this, your experience, your knowledge, your time with Napier, and everything else beyond that. So thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Steve.